Question number 6, Phil Twyford.
Mr Speaker, my question is for the Minister responsible for Housing New Zealand Corporation. Why has the government extracted more than $500 million in dividends from Housing New Zealand when there are over 3,000 people on the waiting list, children dying in cold, damp homes and a shortage of houses?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, because funding decisions around social housing are based on the needs of the most vulnerable, not on the dividend paid by Housing New Zealand in any particular year. For instance, the government has in every year since 2009-10 spent at least $100 million more per year than the best year that the Labor government was in charge of Housing Corp. And that's because we've had to spend a lot of money to catch up the damage done by Labor to the state housing stock. The number of people assisted is now determined by the flow of income-related rents, and the government is forecast to spend $774 million this year, up from $718 million last year, and we're looking to purchase 3,000 new income-related rent places over the next 3 years.
Supplementary question, Phil Twyford.
Why was 2-year-old Emilita Bourne allowed to die in a cold, damp state house after her mother repeatedly requested improvements to the house, if, as he says, Housing New Zealand has all the money it needs to make the repairs?
The Honourable Bill
Speaker,
English.
not going to discuss the details of that particular case, but I think that the member does make a valid point, and that is the way that the state housing stock has been managed for a number of decades, but particularly under the last Labor government, means we have thousands of houses that are not appropriate for the tenants, and that is why we have a social housing reform program, because we have to undo decades of damage that have left our most vulnerable people in houses that are not always suitable for them.
Supplementary question, Jami-Lee Ross.
What steps is Housing New Zealand taking to help deliver more homes that are warm, dry and safe?
Order. The Honourable Bill
Mr.
English.
Speaker. Well, last year Housing New Zealand spent $400 million on maintaining and upgrading state houses, much higher than any previous government has ever spent, and $100 million more than the Labor government ever did when it was in charge. We've also insulated we had to insulate 280,000 houses to make up for what the Labor government didn't do. We had to retrofit 48,000 houses with insulation. We had to provide heating. We had to provide heating in 10,000 homes that Labor left without any heating. We had to install thermal curtains in 17,000 homes that Labor left with no curtains.
Order. Supplementary question, Phil Twyford.
Supplementary. Does he agree with Guy and Espiner that after 7 years we've all had enough of national ministers blaming the last Labor government?
The Honourable Bill English. Order.
Mr Speaker, I don't always agree with Guy and Espiner, but I have to say even I have been amazed how negligent the previous Labor government was, because we could have spent hundreds of millions on new homes, but we had to spend it on insulating 280,000 public and private sector homes and providing heating for 10,000 houses. I feel sorry for those tenants, and I wish we'd been able to do more faster, but the Labor Party should not underestimate how determined we are to get the job done.
The answer's gone on for long enough. Order. Supplementary question, Phil Twyford.
When he said Housing New Zealand have made 126,000 health and safety repairs in the last year, Did this include the contractors who dealt with a mould problem by nailing a piece of plywood over the top of it in the home of Te Ao Marama Wensor, whose son Uriah has holes in his lungs and has suffered strokes due to the toxic mould?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, it may have done. That's quite possible, which tells us about how much work needs to be done on the state housing stock and the system that runs it. And that is why we believe we need other providers who help to set higher levels. But in the case of the person that the member has mentioned, of course, those kind of cases are now taken very seriously by a range of agencies, and if he's willing to provide details, then we can take action to improve that situation.
Rather use it politically.
Supplementary question, Phil Twyford.
Why does he choose to pocket the $500 million dividend and sell houses to merchant bankers and property developers instead of building new state houses and fixing up the ones that are killing the children, when on his watch the number of state houses has been cut, 2,000 houses lie empty, and there are 3,000 families on the waiting list?
The Honourable Bill English.
That's your record, Bill.
Mr Speaker, well, here's the record. In 2006-7, Labor spent $55 million building houses. This year we're spending $180 million building houses. That's the difference in commitment. Labor didn't build new state houses. We are. You're losing, Phil.
Order. Point of order, the Honourable Craig Foss.
Excuse me, Mr Speaker. I'm sitting almost directly behind the Minister, and I could hardly hear him because of the interjections from the other side.
Order. I'll hear from Grant Robertson.
Mr Speaker, I appreciate that there was a lot of noise there, but what standing orders talk about is comments in the House that will lead to disorder. And every answer from the acting Prime Minister referred to the last Labor government instead of him taking responsibility for his actions.
No, order. I don't need any assistance from the member. The answers were certainly robust, but I consider very carefully what's in the question and the tone of the question. And in a question asks about a government with a policy to sell to merchant bankers and then accuses houses of killing children, etc., that's an inflammatory type question that inevitably will get a robust answer in this House.
Based on fact.
Question number 7, Tim McIndoe.
Thank you.